Oh hey, welcome to my desk. Today I'm going to be drawing X-Men 97. So they just released the first 3 episodes of X-Men 97 season 2. And I've watched the first 2 so far, and I'll probably watch the 3rd one later today. But I'm really excited about it. I'm really into it, and I just thought today would be a good day to draw some X-Men and talk about them and the show. So, I tried to pick like different mutants that I either really like or I feel are like important to, to the story. So that being said, I'm going to start with Cyclops. And yeah, I wouldn't say Cyclops is like one of my favorites at all. I don't really think his power is really that cool, and yeah, I find him just kind of boring compared to some of the other X-Men, but he is definitely an important part of the story, and in general, almost all X-Men stories. But X-Men 97 is actually like a revival or like a sequel series to X-Men, the animated series from the early 90s. Well, it started in the early 90s, and the last episode was in 97, so that's where the name comes from. And I didn't grow up watching that at all, because it was a little before my time. And when I was a kid, there was X-Men Evolution, which was like a retelling of, the characters as teenagers instead of adults. I think in that one, only Storm and Wolverine were adults, and the rest of the characters were teens, and that's what I liked as a kid. But looking back, honestly, at least the art style of the original X-Men series was much better. And then when I found out about this show, I went back and I watched that original show just to catch up. That was like a couple years ago. And honestly, it was definitely a different vibe. It was more serious, I would say, with like darker, more adult themes. And also a little bit more soapy. Like there was just many more soap opera tropes to that show. And I think it also followed like the comic book storylines a little bit more closely. Okay. Actually, no, I'm going to add a little bit more hair here because there's like more lines on the hair. Okay, yeah, and this is actually a screen grab from the first episode of season 2. Okay, so that was Cyclops. And now I'm going to draw Jean is definitely an important character in this series, and also just all of the X-Men series. And I really like this costume that she wears in the series, or in the season finale from season 1. It's more like 1960s, kind of like retro vibes. I don't remember why they all changed their costumes for the end of season 1. But yeah, I just remembered this one, so wanted to draw this version. And Jean Grey's storyline is so trippy in this series, honestly. She's like cloned, and then she's the Dark Phoenix, and then she has a baby, and the baby goes to the future, and then comes back older than her, and like, honestly, just such a wild ride, honestly. But I always really liked Jean Grey and was jealous of her power. Honestly, when I was a kid, I was really into the idea of having like telekinetic powers. I think mainly just because I was lazy. I would just imagine like summoning a glass of water when I was on the couch or something. But yeah, she also has like psychic abilities, which are pretty cool. She can like read people's minds and like also create like force fields, stuff like that. Like just a lot of mental powers. And she's in a relationship with Scott, or sorry, Cyclops. His real name's Scott. But yeah, like I said, she was cloned, and then her clone gets pregnant, and so that baby is like her kid, but also not. And then that baby's like infected with like a techno virus. Okay. No, you know what? I'm gonna put a few more lines here too for the hair. I keep forgetting to add those. Okay. Okay, so yeah, that was Jean Grey. And now I'm really gonna draw my favorite mutant, which is Rogue. I love Rogue so much. I can't really explain why. I think, yeah, her southern accent is like probably part of it. And I also really love her power, even though it's kind of terrible for her, you know, that she's able to take anyone else's superpower, which I think, yeah, is pretty cool, but I guess at the cost of like hurting that other person. So I guess that part's not cool. But yeah, just the idea of being able to do anything that anyone else can do is really cool to me. And in the 2000s series, she can also just take on the abilities of even just normal humans. She like touches a football player and is like suddenly able to like really tackle anyone, stuff like that, which I think is kind of crazy. And Rogue also has like a pretty intense soap opera-esque storyline with like Mystique, who's the villain, who like is actually turns out to can fly in this version of X-Men. She can't fly in the live-action movies or in the 2000s animated series. But it's actually explained why in the original X-Men animated series. She's like, has this whole backstory about how she was accidentally touching Miss Marvel for like way too long and permanently absorbed her powers and her consciousness. So like Miss Marvel's in a coma, but her conscious is living inside of Rogue. I think if I remember right. Just got this crazy big hair. I do like that they tried to keep the art style, but like modernize it at the same time. And it is a lot smoother if you compare the two series, but they do go back and they add in like a grainy texture, and like the animation is like kind of choppy in some spots and stuff. And yeah, the original character designs were pretty similar to these as well. Okay, so that was Rogue. And now I'm gonna do Storm. Definitely one of the characters I think is the coolest. Also maybe one of the more or most powerful mutants in X-Men. And her powers just keep getting more and more intense as the series goes on. Like, at first she can just control the weather, but then she's like able to control the cosmos. And like, if you think about it, if you have control over like elements that are affected by weather, I mean, there's really no limit. It's like you have to be creative, honestly, if you have superpowers, to really tap the full potential, which she does, honestly. And I did honestly really like Halle Berry as Storm in the live action movies. It's funny because in the first one she has like an accent, but then it disappears by the second one. I guess Halle Berry got tired of doing it. But yeah, her character is supposed to be from Africa, and she was like a god to her people because she could control the weather, until Professor X discovered her and brought her to be part of the X-Men. So in this series she does have an accent, and she speaks very, very poetically, in a way that, yeah, makes her seem almost otherworldly or just wise, you know. In the first season she loses her powers, but then there's like a trippy couple of scenes where she gets them back. One thing I will say about this series is that the plots move forward at like breakneck speed, honestly. Like, if you're looking at your phone even for a second, or like just distracted, you will miss something. And I honestly have had to rewind a lot in order to really understand the plot. And I And I don't want to spoil it, but definitely worth going back and watching. Okay, so that was Storm. And I think I'm gonna do only one more today. And I'm gonna draw Wolverine. Wolverine. Also, yeah, really cool character. Probably like the main character of most people's idea of X-Men, I would say. Just because the live action movies and in general, yeah, Wolverine is really important. And he has this like love triangle with Jean Grey and Cyclops and a lot of different versions of the franchise. What's funny though is that the show that I was talking about, Evolution, it is not the case because Wolverine is an adult and Jean Grey is a child or like a teen in that. So there's nothing like that in that series. But in every other version of the X-Men, that is like a huge plot point that, you know, he's in love with Jean Grey. And then his power is also cool. He can like regenerate instantly, which means that he basically doesn't age at all. He can like live indefinitely. And then he's also been like experimented on by, you know, the government or whoever. And like his skeleton was like grafted to this metal, adamantium. So he's got like metal claws. And actually in the new series, he's got that removed at the moment. I wonder if they're gonna give it back to him. Because now it's just bones. And that's kind of weird, honestly. I don't like bone claw Wolverine. I think, I'm not sure if it's Wolverine, but I know that they brought back a lot of the original voice actors from the original series to either play their character from before, but a lot of the voice actors were brought back to play other characters. So like the woman who voiced Jean Grey in the original series is the voice of like a different character in this revival series. Which I'm not sure why they did that. Maybe, you know, I guess as you age your voice changes, and maybe her voice just didn't suit the character anymore. But anyways, for whatever reason they did that. But I do think it's cool that they did bring back a lot of the original cast, you know. But just pretty much done with Wolverine. And yeah, I think I'm not gonna do any more today. But yeah. Well, I hope you like this one. Let me know in the comments what you think of X-Men, if you've been watching X-Men 97, or who's your favorite X-Men. And I will see you in the next one.